Hi there, friends. I'm Vasco. I'm part of the team behind the first global Scrum Master Summit. If you're a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master Summit is a place to learn, to share, and to meet new friends. We will have lots of live sessions where you can meet and network with other Scrum Masters from all over the globe. So make sure you check it at bit.ly/SM Summit and the numeral 21. That's bit.ly/SMSUMMIT21. We have 7 amazing keynotes or more, as we are still organizing the conference as I record this, and 8 tracks that feature people like you and thought leaders sharing their insights and knowledge to help you become an awesome Scrum Master. So once again, check it out at bit.ly/SM Summit 21. That's all lowercase, all one word, SM Summit and the numeral 21. I'll see you on the virtual conference floor. All right, now on to the show. Hello, everybody. TGIF, as they say. Welcome to This Week with Rob Cooper. Hi, Rob. Welcome back.
Hi again. Good to be here.
It's good to have you to talk about what I think is, well, at least according to the latest Scrum Guide, a team member that has a special function, the product owner. I'm so happy they finally accepted that the product owner is part of the team. I was so frustrated by the idea that the product owner was, as it was in the original Scrum, a chicken. Because, of course, they are committed to the outcome. They're not just engaged. So let's dive into the product owner role, as it were. And we'll end up on a high, and we'll talk about a great product owner. Well, let's start with the reverse of that. What might have been, Rob, potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've had to work with?
Well, I think you set the scene really well, talking about whether a product owner is a full and proper member of the team. And I think it's one of those, it's been staring us in plain sight for years. Because as soon as you abstract the product owner from the team, or even in your thinking, you abstract the product owner of the team, you've got a handover, you've got a link, you've got separation and dissociation from the goal of producing value. So my example is from a few years ago, when at a particular organization I was working at, medium to large size organization, good technical Scrum team setup, so the teams are working well. And it's not that the product owners in these particular few teams I'm thinking about were bad product owners. They weren't. They were good. Sure, they still are good guys, and they were passionate about what they did, and they were good. They really understood the market. But the anti-pattern that I would see, and this one you must have had 100 times on this, it's about dissociation from the team. So I don't know how to probably put a new sort of spin on this, but okay, I'll characterize it in a couple of ways. Is that there was one thing. This particular example. This might illustrate it well. There was actually 2 product owners in that team system, which was a problem. There's an issue right there. 2 product owners, and the product owners, one was more of a sort of a technical side product owner, and one was a more business side. Now, the fact that I'm even differentiating between those 2, I think is problematic. But that was the setup that we had. And so you kind of had sort of one extreme and the other. So on the one hand, the business product owner was far away. It felt, and that's what the team felt, that they were far away. They were in great connection with the customers. They were great connection with what was going out in the market. They would be able to filter some of that through. They would appear, fairly often at the team events. But they were disconnected because they were so well placed on the sort of the customer facing business side, and that wasn't, in this particular organization, wasn't close enough to the teams, which is an organizational sort of impediment. Yeah, that they couldn't consistently and accurately convey and sort of inspire the team to get to the product goal. On the other hand, then in the same system, you had a technical product owner who was kind of the other extreme, and they were right next to the team. Literally, they were sat with the team. So that was something. This other one was in a different location, and they were sat with the team, and they were almost like they were an ex-developer, and they'd never really taken that hat off. So they always had half a sort of development hat on, and they would even sort of sometimes tinker with code. So you had this kind of situation where they they were so close to the work of the team that they didn't actually provide what the team needed from a product owner. So you had kind of two extremes, which actually particularly served the team that well.
So when you think about it, so you talked about the dissociation of that business PO, but you also talked about kind of the reverse, which was the too much association of the technical PO. And it sounds to me that or at least the way I read this, is that it highlights the fact that the product owner role really is an outreach role, a role that needs to connect the team to the rest of the world, not only the customers, of course, because there's also business goals and business strategy and managing the stakeholders. The good old project management aspect that is still alive and kicking today, which is stakeholder management, right? Like stakeholder elicitation and management as a key activity for project managers. Is that how you see it? That the PO is really and should be kind of crafted and grown as like an outreach, like a connection role to the outside?
Yeah, I think it's a good way of positioning it, and that's why the PO role is very, very difficult. It's a really, really demanding role, and it's very hard to do well because you're trying, like you say, you're sort of trying to connect the team to the customer, and also depending on the kind of the size and the structure of the organization, that actually might be a really long gap to try and bridge. So they're trying to sort of they're trying to bridge something which practically might be very, very difficult, and they've got to wear many hats at the same time, manage many stakeholders, sort of in sort of knock on sort of stakeholders in the business, dealing with clients. So I think part of the skill is to draw the customers closer to the team. So that's one big thing, because you tend to think of this as a kind of a linear, a sort of a linear sort of structure. But actually, if we can loop it round and bring the customers closer to the team, that's one huge thing that makes the PO's job a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Kind of short circuit the feedback line, right? Like
Totally.
go straight team to customer and get that feedback going.
Yeah, yeah, and there you go. So, and actually, that helps on many things, because that helps the team understand the vision. It helps understand the customer's pain points. It gives empathy for the customers. You know, it's sort of every way. It's a positive thing, and also it highlights the thing about organizational design. We tend to think in terms of org charts and hierarchies, and that sort of tends to be often is a limiting belief in our minds. And the actual fact is, of the collaboration systems are often quite horizontal, so they cut across lines. It depends on the organization and the size, but this is something else that tends to cause us problems, sort of because we're thinking along organizational lines rather than, well, okay, what's the quickest route to the customer?
That's a very good point. Organizational charts can become a limiting belief for us, for sure. And also especially in this case, because we're talking about Scrum Masters, also for Scrum Masters. All right, but now we turn our attention to what might have been, Rob, possibly the best product owner you've ever worked with. Describe that product owner for us, Rob.
Okay, yeah, so I'm thinking a particular product owner who I would argue is very, very successful, and I suppose it's because they exemplify and embody the opposite to what I've described. And again, it wasn't that in the previous example that those POs were bad. They weren't. They were good POs, but they were perhaps didn't give themselves the optimal opportunities to really thrive as a PO. So the good PO that I'm thinking of is on the ball. So there we go. They've got great domain knowledge. They're very kind of quick to start to sort of think about things, to engage with things, engage with people, engage with concepts. They're very clear about where they sit with respect to the team. So they get deliberately close to the team. So that without, they get themselves, well, not, you can't get physically sort of side by side with the team nowadays, but, they are, they've built a relationship with every one of the team members. They're as present as they can be, but equally, they're very clear about the customer needs. So I think they strike a great balance between bringing those two sort of sides together. And where they can, they do actually bring customers in contact with the team. So they sort of exemplify a positivity, an energy, a kind of a quite hard work ethic. They need to bring. I think they're very transparent. They're very, very clear about what they do. They don't mind. They're open about what they're doing, where they're going, what they're trying to do. And this is something I was going to point out. So a great way of defining leadership, I heard, was somebody who's able to set context. And what I mean by that is the leader sets context by focusing in the group that they're leading on what the situation is and what the challenge or opportunity is, and focusing after that. So that's what I mean by setting context. And that's why I'd argue that a product owner is very much a leadership role, because they set the context and say, well, what is the product? What's the product vision? What's the goal that we're going after? What's the next, big kind of pieces that we want to go for, guys? That to me is what this particular product owner exemplifies. They're very clear about it. They're good about it. That's what I like about.
Absolutely. This reminds me of an episode we have here on the podcast about lateral leadership, which is exactly one of the aspects of being a product owner. You might not have the authority, but you have the leadership, and you need to have the leadership skills. And for us as Scrum Masters, it's very important to set the context for the product owners that are coming to the team so that they are able to play that role. It's, as you said, a very hard role to play. Rob, we're getting close to the end. Before we go, please share with us, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
Probably LinkedIn, best way to get hold of me. You can search me. It's Rob Cooper. I'm working at Sainsbury's in UK at the moment. And feel free to get in touch there. That's the best way to have a chat. Happy to talk about anything that we've talked about on the podcast or any other things that are bouncing around your brain.
Absolutely. And we'll put the link to Rob's LinkedIn page in the show notes so that you can drop him a line of feedback about how this week was, and engage and ask questions, because sometimes a simple question can lead to insight and the transformation of our impact as Scrum Masters. Rob, it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you for having me. It's been really good. Enjoy it.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.